Hello everyone, my name is Races, and today I want to talk about sound in Tarkov and how you can use it to your advantage to become a better stealth, recon, or rat player, whatever you want to call it. I want to preface this video by saying that we are in version 12.3 right now, and all of these sound mechanics, or whatever you want to call them, are subject to change, especially with the inclusion of Steam Audio, suspected of coming sometime this year. Now I'm putting this one first because I think it's the most important thing for players to know, and I think it's the thing that is a dead giveaway for anyone trying to be stealthy. I've caught so many people trying to be stealthy because of this one thing, and I like to call it the pivot. Your character makes a sound when they turn when they're standing still, and it's this very loud, recognizable, high-pitched screech. I don't know how to really identify the sound, but it's a lot louder indoors based on the material you're standing on. And the way to combat this is pretty easy. All you're going to need to do is just be moving while you turn. It's a simple fix, and if you get it down to habit, you won't be caught as often. For this next one, we need to understand that there are some critical issues with the Tarkov sound engine. And it's the fact that some sounds that you make client-side that you hear are not transmitted server-side and are not heard by other players at all. The falling sound is the best example of this in action. When you walk off a ledge or you fall off a ledge in Tarkov, you're going to make a sound that's very reminiscent of the jumping sound in the game, but not to other players around you. It's going to be dead silent if you crouch walk off a ledge. And I see a lot of players who are trying to stealth and they walk off a ledge and make that noise client side, and they'll be like, screw it, I have to go loud now. Proning is also a huge giveaway on where you are. The sound of proning and getting up from being prone is a very loud noise, and whenever possible, you should not do it. This one as well has a lot to do with the disconnect between server and client, and it's a thing that I see a lot of players, new and old, doing because they don't realize it. A lot of players, when they're prone and they're not quite in that perfect position, they'll tap the W key just to move forward a few inches, and they think that it doesn't actually make any noise because they don't hear any. But it makes a lot of noise. It makes a lot of noise to the players around you, and it makes the full prone crawling sound from your character. And this is also evident with walking and crouch walking as well. Another one of those server client-side disconnects is the sound your character makes while sneak walking when you have a blacked or fractured leg. It sounds as if you're not being quiet at all, but in reality, to other players, you're being just as stealthy as you would be normally. This next one is the most common question I see in Twitch chats all around Twitch from newer players. Do you make sound when you ADS or aim down sights? Yes. Yes, you do, and it can be extremely loud. But this is one of those sounds that ultimately is weapon dependent. Each weapon makes their own types of sounds, and depending on the ergo and weight of the weapon, you're going to make less or more. And I don't have time to go into every weapon in the game and how much sound it makes, but just know that if you ADS, it is a very big giveaway that you are around and you're ready to fight. One thing about the ADS noise is that there are two sounds associated with it. One sound when you bring your gun up, and one sound when you lower your gun. So if you're in a situation where you need your gun raised, make sure you aim down sights before you enter the area where you need to be stealthy, and try to keep it up for as long as possible so you don't make those sounds giving you away. Another sound that a lot of people have questions about is actually the opening the inventory sound. And yes, you do, but like ADSing, opening your inventory is actually a weapon-dependent sound in the game. With a pistol, you'll make no sound opening your inventory. With a large AK, you will. pretty obvious one is that all the firing mode switching, the flashlight switching on and off, and sight switching noises all make noise, and they're very loud. Same with folding stocks and inspecting your weapon. Picking up and equipping equipment and weapons is also one of those other ones that you might not think about, but it's very distinct and loud as well. Every player is aware of the sound that bushes can make when you walk through them, but I think a lot of players underestimate the amount of sound that comes out of a bush, especially when you're sneaking. You really do have to be careful, and it's really still pretty loud, especially when you turn while in the bush. The pivot does actually have an effect on bush movement, and it's extremely loud in your ears, especially when you're wearing headphones. And honestly, my best advice is just to try to stay out of bushes as much as possible. I think this one's pretty obvious to both new and old players, is the sound of searching through a container. Yes, other players can hear it, and yes, it's extremely loud. I think the best way to use this is to wait for your opponent to search something, and when you hear that recognizable sound of looting, going through bags and stuff, it's probably a pretty good time to strike. Also, if you think that your opponent is being stealthy, you can start looting and bait out a rush from your opponent. This next one is just a little bit of a trick. It's very niche though. When you want to reload, when you're stuck in a situation and you want to be stealthy, what you can always do is switch to your melee weapon, open your inventory, swap out the mag, and switch back to your weapon. The problem is that this is very weapon dependent, and depending on the weapon you're using, you can actually make a lot more sound by unsheathing your weapon than you would have by reloading. But it's something to think about while you're playing. I don't think a lot of players are going to be using this at all, but for the few times that I've been teaming up with some player scavs or people in game, I like to use the hand gestures to kind of show what's going on. And you guessed it, that makes noise as well. A good way to gain a quick burst of speed while sneaking is to alt peek. A way to gain some ground over your opponent without making too much noise. And now it's up to you to use the sound to gather information about your enemy and to conceal yourself. I hope you learned something about sound in this video, and if you'd like to see more stealth gameplay or things like it, I stream on Twitch almost every day of the week at twitch.tv/races. Thanks for watching.